Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack how a massive Eurasian trade network did way more than just move luxury fabrics. It actually served as the ancient world's internet. I'll be your host, and we are going to sketch out a story that bridges ancient history with the modern world.
So let's dive right in by challenging what we think we know. When you hear Silk Road, you probably picture caravans carrying gold, spices, and sure, fine silk. But it actually wasn't just luxury goods making that grueling 10,000-kilometer trek across Eurasia.
What was really traveling these routes? World-shattering technologies, bizarre microscopic parasites, and literally civilization-ending diseases. We're talking about the ultimate catalysts for both human evolution and catastrophe. We're going to trace this massive butterfly effect across 5 themes. 1. More than just silk. 2. Weapons that built empires. 3. Crops, plagues, and biology. 4. The information revolution. And 5. The new Silk Road. Section 1. More than just silk. Setting the stage. Let's start with a massive clash of empires in 53 BCE at the Battle of Carrhae, where the seemingly unstoppable Roman Empire met a brand new kind of warfare they were completely unprepared for. This battle brilliantly illustrates what happens when Rome's famous tortoise formation, slow, heavily shielded infantry, was absolutely decimated by Central Asian nomads. The Parthians could shoot arrows continuously from the saddle, smashing through Roman infantry defenses with heavy cavalry that essentially acted like ancient battle tanks. The Romans just stood there in their hollow square and, well, they were completely picked apart. The secret to this terrifying cavalry was the composite recurved bow, and there's a really bizarre ingredient in how these were made. To craft a short, powerful bow that wouldn't snap under immense pressure, they layered beechwood, buffalo horn, and animal sinew. But to hold all those highly pressurized layers together, they actually boiled down the swim blotters of Black Sea sturgeons to create this incredibly viscous glue. It's crazy, right? This one weird ingredient changed mounted warfare forever, giving horse archers unmatched, armor-piercing mobility. Section 2. Weapons that built empires, from the steppes to Europe. The crucial point here is that military innovations didn't just stay in Asia. They hitched a ride across the trade routes, and honestly, none was more devastating than gunpowder. Just think about how this escalated over time. It builds from a botched quest for an immortality elixir in China all the way to the complete destruction of medieval warfare. Back in 850 CE, Chinese alchemists mixed saltpeter and sulfur hoping to live forever, but instead, they blew up their lab. By the 13th century, Mongol armies were hurling gunpowder bombs at European cities. Then a massive shift in 1346 at the Battle of Crecy. The deafening thunder and smoke of English cannons utterly terrified the opposing Genoese forces. And by 1453, the Ottoman Turks used giant bronze cannons to literally blast through the 1,000-year-old walls of Constantinople. The era of the sword and shield? Permanently over. Section 3. Crops, Plagues, and Biology. The Invisible Travelers. But armies and merchants weren't the only ones traveling. Invisible biological agents were basically hitchhiking along the Silk Road, bringing both unprecedented life and terrible death. It's amazing how simple seeds rearranged human societies. We have broomcorn millet moving east to west, and long-season crops like wheat and barley moving west to east. Trading these specific crops meant farmers could pull 2 harvests a year from the exact same soil, a practice we call multi-cropping. By essentially doubling the calorie output of a single plot of land, this agricultural exchange freed up massive segments of the population. People could stop farming and become craftspeople, scholars, or kings. It literally fueled civilization building. However, humans were carrying much darker passengers too. Take the Chinese liver fluke. It's a flatworm parasite that absolutely needs marshy, wet environments, specifically freshwater snails and fish, just to survive. Yet archaeologists found this exact parasite on 2,000-year-old hygiene sticks, which was basically ancient toilet paper, in a bone-dried desert relay station a full 1,500 kilometers away from its natural habitat. That definitively proves that living microscopic diseases were actively traveling the route, hiding right in the guts of merchants and soldiers. And that brings us to a pretty macabre turning point. In 1346, during the siege of Kaffa on the Black Sea, an unknown disease suddenly decimated the attacking Mongol army. Before retreating, they loaded their catapults with the corpses of their own dead and flung them right over the city walls into the Genoese trading post. Fleeing merchants then unknowingly carried infected rat fleas from this horrific siege back to Mediterranean ports. 25 million. That is the staggering number of Europeans, at least 1/3 of the entire population, wiped out by the Black Death in less than a decade. It was a demographic collapse of unimaginable horror. So what's the big takeaway here? It's this grim butterfly effect. Because there were suddenly so few people left to do the work, the old medieval social order just collapsed. The surviving peasants demanded higher wages, women entered entirely new professions. The European middle class was essentially born. And crucially, this desperate need for efficiency forced the invention of labor-saving devices, things like spinning wheels and blast furnaces. This effectively sparked the modern European economy and paved the way for the Renaissance. Section 4. The Information Revolution. Ideas that reshaped the world. So with European trade booming and this new middle class growing, a massive hunger for knowledge emerged. But there was a huge bottleneck. European parchment, which was made from animal skins, was incredibly expensive. That is, until a Chinese invention arrived. The process for making paper was actually incredibly simple. Step 1, you pound plant fibers to break them down. Step 2, you boil the plants in water. Step 3, collect the fibrous mush on a screen and let it dry. This revolutionary paper-making process traveled with Buddhist monks and Arab merchants, spreading across Asia and into the Middle East. It fundamentally transformed global bureaucracy and learning, simply because it was ridiculously cheap to produce compared to animal skins. To give you an idea of the impact, think about this number for a second, 40,000. That is the estimated number of paper books in just one library in the Cordovan Caliphate in Muslim Spain during the 10th century. That single library was 10 times larger than any parchment-based university library in Christian Europe at the exact same time. And this perfectly illustrates what happens when technologies cross-pollinate. China actually invented movable type centuries earlier, but because the Chinese language requires thousands of complex characters, mass printing was super cumbersome. However, when those Chinese printing concepts met the highly efficient 26-letter Latin alphabet in Johannes Gutenberg's workshop in 1440, it was an explosive match. Knowledge was instantly democratized. Suddenly, millions of cheap paper books and Bibles were flooding Europe, which directly fueled massive societal shifts like the Protestant Reformation. And it wasn't just physical books moving, it was dangerous, revolutionary ideas. Through translated texts sent back by Jesuit missionaries, European Enlightenment thinkers learned all about the Chinese civil service. Ideas of a society ruled by merit, education, and reason, as praised by Voltaire in 1756, flowed west. This deeply challenged the European norm of hereditary kings, fanning the flames of the democratic revolutions in America and France. Section 5. The New Silk Road, from ancient trails to outer space. So, having fundamentally shaped the modern world through warfare, biology, and information, is the Silk Road just a romantic relic of the past? Absolutely not. Today, massive freight trains on networks like the Yiwu Railway are retracing these exact ancient steps. They're pushing consumer and manufactured goods across the vastness of Eurasia at incredible speeds. We're talking about connecting China to Western Europe overland, across 6 countries and 13,000 kilometers, in just 18 days. This is part of the One Belt, One Road initiative, which is an absolutely staggering $1 trillion infrastructure project connecting 60 countries. It's actively reconstructing those ancient overland and maritime trade routes, aiming to lock in a new era of global economic integration that spans literally 2/3 of the world's population. And get this, they aren't just paving land and dredging ports, they are literally launching the Silk Road into orbit. With the deployment of 30 navigation and remote sensing satellites known as Silk Road 1, they're building a constellation in space. This provides advanced navigation and mapping to this massive interconnected trade network on our Earth. We've seen today how a single traded idea, like paper, or a microscopic hitchhiker, like the plague, can change absolutely everything about how we live. Which leaves us with a pretty profound question. If the ancient Silk Road built the civilization we live in today, what kind of world will this new Silk Road forge for tomorrow? Thanks for tuning in to this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.